be back so fast.
I know. I was just thinking, weren't we just here?
I know. But this is so much better. This is so much better than like recording last minute.
Yes. Yeah, finally, actually, it's been so long since I've felt this way that it's kind of weird.
It's a little strange. It's like I only have to focus on the podcast.
Yeah.
What?
I don't have to immediately jump into the editing booth.
Yeah, that's got to be nice for you.
That is nice that my job ends after we are done talking today.
Yeah, no, how wonderful.
Yeah.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi. Hello, our purple friends. Hello, everyone.
Hi. I said hi already, but I'm Co.
And I'm Jo, and we are your purple friends.
Yeah.
And we're finally bringing you this episode.
Yeah, we've been
Accidentally
teasing it for like, I guess, a month now.
Uh-huh.
We're talking about people pleasing today.
People pleasing. I
That
feel
like the Cookie Crisp dog. People pleasing
the Cookie Crisp dog
is a wolf now, isn't it? I don't know what it is.
I think it's
anymore.
always been a wolf because it's like howling.
No, but I think there was a really ugly dog before the wolf.
It's possible.
I can't go on a genuine web surf sequence to prove this right now, but we can continue. I just got smacked. We're good. Not by Jo. Jo didn't smack me. Jeez.
Your microphone smacked you.
Yeah, it came alive. Just put the smack down on me.
But yes, today we're talking about people pleasing. The reason why I'm so excited to talk about it is because, like, seriously, so many people struggle with this.
Oh.
And yes, everyone people pleases, and we'll get into that.
No.
But yes.
Some people do not.
We'll get into that.
Okay. Some people are people displeasers through and through.
But before we get into it, you want to do our little gratefuls?
Oh, I almost completely forgot, even though it's in big, bold red letters at the top of our show outline. I almost forgot.
I know. I saw you leaving it behind.
Yeah. Ooh, that was a close one.
It's okay. I gotcha.
Should I go first?
Sure.
Okay. I'm grateful today for the movie Jaws.
Ooh.
I think it's 1975. Jaws. Yes, it's the movie about the shark. The movie that made you say, I'm scared to go in the water. Mm-hmm. I have a really strong connection with that movie because I shared that movie with my dad from a very young age. I obviously don't really intend to share it with Amari from a super young age. I believe I had seen Jaws by the time I was Amari's age.
Yeah, I
Amari
think you had mentioned that.
Yeah, 3 years old and a couple months. Yes, I had seen Jaws by that age. And
Jurassic Park, I think.
Yes, and Jurassic Park. Both of which I would say are in my top 5 at least favorite movies.
Like they're your top 2 favorite movies.
They're
dude.
in my blood. They're like my comfort movie. My comfort
Yeah.
movies are like action stuff like that. Like you never know. I don't know.
Like like if you're sick, you're watching John Wick.
Oh yeah, that's so weird, right? It's because okay, here let's talk about this. Because I was just reflecting on this recently. Why are my comfort movies like these really intense things? Mm-hmm. Like horror movies too.
Yeah, I mean,
I don't know. I think it's like it takes a lot for me to not be engaging with something else while the movie is on. Like it takes a lot to be going on for me to be watching a movie and not also distracted by my phone or like
doing something else.
Yeah, just thinking about something else, like getting ready to pause the movie to go do something else. But yeah, those movies,
they grab your attention.
yes. Oh my God, especially John Wick. Like John.
Yeah.
Oh, this is not. Maybe this is a little grateful about John Wick. Actually, the John Wick franchise. That movie. That franchise, it just starts and it just doesn't stop. Like other movies, you think about other movies and there are like these ups and downs and there's time for you to go
nice
pee
little
at the
bows
movies.
at the end of the movie too.
Time for you to go fill up your popcorn in the middle of the movie. There's basically like these built-in low energy moments. And that there are literal seconds of that in John Wick and that is it. And that's what it takes for me to stay in bed when I'm sick.
Yes, because you are a pacer, and so anything that keeps you sat, you're sat. Yeah. I really want to share my little grateful.
Yes, I'm sorry. Mine was so huge. It was
no.
a huge grateful.
It was great. I loved it. I love talking about movies. You know me. But this might make me cry, so it's definitely a little bit of a change of pace. But I'm really grateful that my mom's turning 60 and we're celebrating her birthday this weekend, and this is a surprise party, and we can talk about it now
because this episode is published after the surprise party.
Happy surprise birthday party, Mom. She's like our only listener.
No, she's not our only listener, because my mom also.
Yes, but she is a very consistent listener, so thank you. I'm grateful for you listening, but I'm also very grateful that you're turning 60. And I won't get too much into it, but, at this point in our lives, I think it's pretty common for anyone to experience some sort of health scare or just kind of get slapped in the face with reality in life. Yes. Yeah. So cannot stress enough how grateful I am for my mom. And I'm very grateful for the mother she was to me and the grandma she is to Amari.
Yeah.
And I'm excited to celebrate her this weekend.
Yes. It's going to be a party. It's going to be a heck of a party because it's being planned by your sister.
Oh my gosh, yes. I'm also thank you for...
Yes, that's what we're really grateful for, I think.
I wanted to very much also share gratitude for my sister who, yes, she did plan the whole ding dang thing. So she's incredible. My mom's incredible.
Yeah.
I have incredible women in my family.
A lot of good ladies in your life.
Yeah. So, people pleasing?
Oh yeah, we're talking about people pleasing.
Oh,
another dramatic change of pace. Let's take a moment and just recenter ourselves, because we went some places in the intro.
Yeah, honestly, we've been teaching Amari to take deep breaths. Yep. And now I don't say take a deep breath because she's like, no. So I just take a deep breath in front of her, and usually that does it.
Yeah, you can't just tell her. You just got to model it, and she'll do it.
And she'll do it. So, but yeah, no, people pleasing, if we're talking, the definition we will be using today is a pattern of behavior that someone might consistently prioritize someone else's needs and desires above their own. And it becomes a detriment to your own well-being. And it does stem from this deep-seated need of approval and validation, which we'll talk about more later, and fear of rejection and conflict. It really is... it's a you problem. Like it's an us problem. It's not that someone else is forcing us to do anything. It's very much self-inflicted, which is why I think so many people do struggle with it, whether it's lack of awareness or, struggle to implement metacognition to our own self,
And even it's not just even beyond, like, you have to do the metacognition and then you have to do it. Like that is so hard to do. You have to do both. Like those are both so hard to do. And like, I mean, if you are like coming out of like a confrontation being like, why couldn't I say what I know I should have said? You have the metacognition part. You just got to get that doing part.
And that's the piece I think that it is a constant struggle in therapy in general, is like this idea of applying before the incident versus like coming to realization after the incident.
Yeah, proactive.
Right? Yes, like you said, like, oh man, I should have whatever, versus like, oh,
why did I agree to that?
Right. Instead of being like, oh, I'm recognizing this pattern preemptively and choosing differently.
And actually, before we get too deeply into people pleasing, let's just do a callback to the last episode. Well, 2 episodes ago about narcissists. These two individuals together, this is a very dangerous combo. A narcissist with a people pleaser. Yeah. Because I mean, they're operating from like 2 sides of the spectrum. Yep.
We'll definitely get into like, again, noticing some red flags for people pleasers to just be aware and mindful of. But yeah, I do want to maybe get into misconceptions.
Yes.
Because
that's a great place to start.
Because in the intro, everyone people pleases. To some degree, it's necessary, right? Like, I'm certain you have done things to please me.
Oh, duh.
Yes.
I wasn't trying to suggest that I'm not a people pleaser.
No, I know. But like even narcissists, I think, narcissists probably please their bosses or please
as
society.
A means to an end.
Right.
Yep.
As a means to an end. So
it's very transactional.
Yes. People pleasing is very normal part of like human interaction. So yeah, where it gets dicey or where you really want to be paying attention to it is when it's not on your terms. If I'm choosing to please my partner or my mom or my family members or my daughter, whoever, if it's on my terms because I feel like I have the capacity to show them love in this way, or because I'm overflowing with love and I just want to pour it onto them, or I want to show up in this relationship in this way because it matters to me and I want to invest in this relationship, that's great. Those are all wonderful things. I want you to people please if it's coming from that place. And so that can sometimes fall into the category of like being nice or helpful too, of like, that's like on your own accord. You can be a nice person. You can be helpful.
Yeah. This is not an anti-niceness.
Yes, absolutely. Not an anti-niceness. And obviously, like I always say with clients who do exhibit this, I'm like, this is a nice thing. Like we don't want to get rid of this, but we're being aware of some harmful traits. Because again, that's another misconception that like, if I'm being nice, is there anything wrong?
Right.
And so, yes,
there is.
Yes, there is. Yes.
And we'll definitely get more into that later. Well, we can talk a little bit about that. I mean, the bare bones of it is like, if you are a people pleaser and somebody is not like reciprocating, which they wouldn't be unless you're with a people pleaser also.
Yeah.
You build resentment because there's an unequal amount of effort being made. Yes.
Resentment. That is a big piece in this, right? A lot of the times people pleasers will behave in a way with this expectation of, I will receive love then, or I will, they will reciprocate, or they will show up for me. And a lot of times they're left feeling disappointed, and that disappointment builds into resentment. Absolutely.
Yeah.
We'll
talk more about that later.
Yes, because there's more to unpack there, but I wanted to talk about maybe some more fundamental things and foundational things, like
the research.
Yes.
Oh, yes. So, okay. So in lieu of like a ton of, yeah, absolutely. And in lieu of like a lot of, maybe boring research that I would rattle off, I did sort of like, more specific research into this one book that was recommended on the subject. The book is The Disease to Please. It's a 2002 book by Dr. Harriet Breaker, or Breiker. I think it's Breaker. Basically, the book explores the psychological roots of people pleasing and how it impacts your mental health. It's basically, it's kind of like foundational in like the link between people pleasing and like relationship problems, especially like anxiety and depression and how that affects your relationships, stuff like that. So it's a pretty interesting book. And sort of like we talked about earlier, one of the things that happens when you do a lot of people pleasing is you can build up resentment. Another thing that can happen is you can do a lot of self-neglect, which is something that the book talks about a lot. Another thing the book talks about is like the roots of people pleasing stemming from like low self-esteem, fear of abandonment, some of the stuff that we mentioned earlier. And that people pleasing almost without fail. I mean, the book does not say 100% of the time because it's basically a scientific book and you're not going to get that. But basically always people pleasing leads to burnout.
Yeah.
Always. The ways you got the book is very, relevant today. Like the advice that it gives, setting up boundaries, learning to say no, developing self-compassion. That's all stuff that we just talked about that we're going to talk about more. Like I said, it's written in 2002. So this book is over 20 years old. And if you're wondering how relevant it is, it's even more relevant now because since 2002, social media was invented.
Yeah. Woo! I mean, and that's like a whole other added pressure.
Yeah. So, it's definitely a worthwhile book on the subject, and we're definitely going to be referring to it a little bit. Like that's going to be a lot of what I bring to the table is from this book.
Well, and I think the thing is that with people pleasing, it touches on so many different aspects of us, which is what I think the book is getting at, right? The link to mental health and our relationships. And if we're talking about the root of people pleasing, if we're looking at from an IFS standpoint,
internal family systems,
I'm
going to be the audience surrogate anytime you forget to mention what an acronym stands for.
Thanks. It's a part of us. Right? More specifically, a manager part of us. So manager parts in IFS tend to be the parts of us that come out to avoid discomfort, to avoid pain or past traumas to resurface. And so people pleasers are just trying to do their best by avoiding more pain and trauma.
Are managers like compartmentalization specialists?
Say again?
Are the manager role, is that like a compartmentalization specialist?
Not necessarily.
Okay.
Managers can take on many different ways in which they present.
Okay.
People pleasing is just one way in which they can present.
Okay, God, we got to do an episode on internal family systems.
Yeah, I guess we maybe should, since I talk about it so much. Yes. Okay.
Okay, sorry, I won't get us bogged down on that. You can continue.
But yeah, so essentially this part of us, this manager part of us that comes in to avoid discomfort and avoid conflict, right? Which is, again, why we see it in our relationships and why it's so much of this internal burnout. Because the people you're pleasing aren't burnt out. Like, they don't even notice the efforts half the time that you're putting in. So again, I stress, people pleasing is a you problem. You have to put in the work of, and it's going to be uncomfortable. Let me be very clear. Breaking any sort of like neurological or like way of thinking or habit or whatever else, it's going to feel awkward. It's going to be weird.
Because your brain is going to be firing in the opposite direction that you want it to be.
Yeah. Imagine writing with your non-dominant hand. How might that feel?
You asking me?
I am asking you.
Terrible.
Yeah, it might be terrible. How might your hand feel?
It would hurt.
It would hurt. It would be crampy. It would get exhausted. You wouldn't make very much progress.
No, and
the progress you made would
garbage.
look bad.
Yeah.
Very similarly, when we do something differently, that's how it feels.
Yeah.
It feels exhausting. You don't make much progress. It looks weird. You're like, that was awkward. I don't ever want to try it again. But if you were to write with your non-dominant hand for a month, what might it feel like then?
Probably get pretty good at it.
You might feel a little better.
Have you done this? You've done that, right? Try to write with your non-dominant hand? What is it, aside from the metaphor, like, what is it actually like?
Just like you described it. It's awkward and weird, and I don't like it. I would much rather write with my dominant hand. Similarly, practicing these boundaries and thinking differently is going to be uncomfortable, but you are able to work that up, right? No, it's tough. I think that you have to be mindful of like just where, if you're even capable of having that energy, you know?
Yes.
Like if you're a busy parent with a full-time job and chaos going on at home, chaos going on at work, like, do you really have the energy to be putting forth learning a new skill and writing with your non-dominant hand?
Right. Swimming upstream.
Right. So I got to be mindful, you know, especially as a therapist with like where my clients are at and if they're wanting and ready and able, you know. But yeah, people pleasing takes a lot out of you. And I would like to actually get into maybe some ways that anybody can spot some red flags.
Yeah. Oh, this is great.
Is that okay?
Yeah. And the thing that I wanted to ask you specifically is like, obviously nothing. Okay. Strike that. Not specifically, non-specifically. Like what kind of things do you hear from clients that you're like, oh my gosh, red flag, people pleasing behavior. I wonder if this is going to come up again. Boom, boom, boom. Like what kind of stuff?
Yeah. I mean, okay. So I'm going to go over red flags first and then that'll probably just lead into what I typically hear. But some red flags are if you ever experience any difficulty in decision making, thinking, well, how is this going to impact someone else? How is this going to, and you just get stuck ruminating, how is this choice going to impact everyone else, and trying to, I think people who often say things like, I just wish someone would tell me what I need to do is a sign of potential people pleasing. Another sign is feeling overworked or overwhelmed, leading into that feeling of burnout, overexhaustion, because you're just doing a ton of work. Like you're doing way more work than the other person is half the time, or at least it's perceived to be that way. You feel like it's and that's another sign. Feeling like you have an unbalanced relationship.
And also, who knows how many of these unbalanced relationships you have?
Exactly. Yeah. Right. Is that your default mode of showing up in relationships, is taking on this people pleasing role?
Oh my gosh. What does that look like? Does a person who struggles with that, would they have far fewer friends or far more friends, or would it just be a more low quality friends?
I think people who experience chronic people pleasing tend to have fewer friends just out of protection for themselves. Maybe they've been burned one too many times.
Yeah, they've got that metacognition.
They have that metacognition. They're just exhausted. They don't really have the capacity to continue people pleasing, so they just don't really engage in many relationships. Or they you know, these are the people that might be described as too much or clingy or, you know, codependent. That's another red flag, is this codependency on like checking in with your partner or this friend on like, hey, are you good? Do we want to do this? Hey, am I going to get this? Do you want to get this? I'm going to this college. Do you want to go to this college? Like this codependence, lack of being able to move forward without the approval of the people that you are trying to please. There's also this sense of like feeling ungrounded or feeling like you don't know yourself. That's another thing I often hear is like, I don't know. I feel lost. I don't know what I'm doing, because you're bending to many whims half the time, you know, none of which feel authentic to you because they're not you. Right. And all of this, let me be very clear, all of people pleasing is usually rooted in the belief that I'm not good enough. That I have to do something to prove I'm worth loving, I'm worth showing affection, I'm worth being a friend. And so you're coming at you're approaching all your relationships from that standpoint. I need to prove I'm worth being a friend. I need to prove that I'm worth being in this person's life. So when you are showing love or pleasing your partner or this, you know, whoever this person is, again, if it's coming from you, because you have an abundance of love for them and you want to show them love and you want to, you know, show up for them in this way, one thing, right? That's great. But if you're coming at it from, I need to prove that I am worthy or that I am good enough, or it's already like...
Yeah, that's a very destructive framing.
It also comes from the assumption that like you can win someone's love and affection or acceptance.
Yeah, and not only that, but that you always start off at zero, or like you always start off having not earned anything.
Yeah. And as you can tell, that like comes another symptom that I often see is like a lack of confidence, a lack of self-esteem, a lack of even self-awareness or self-independence. You know, this idea of like, I know who I am, and regardless of who I know I'm not going to rub everyone the right way, but that's okay. That thought is very scary for people pleasers.
Yeah, that's a very challenging thought. I was going to say. I wanted to ask if you've ever struggled with this, because I was kind of sitting here wondering if I have, because like I think that maybe with some people, definitely.
Like I said, I think everyone does.
Yeah.
We all have experience in people pleasing, and like I said, sometimes I do people please intentionally. Like, I know my parents listen to this podcast, but there are many times that I people please because I want to, again, enrich that particular relationship. You know, my parents are immigrants, they're Latinos, you know, and I'm first gen. Culturally, there's a lot of differences already, you know, and I know that there are many times that I do things that if it were just up to me, I probably wouldn't do them. But because I know it invests in these relationships and I want these relationships to flourish. And like I said, because maybe in this moment, I have the capacity to do that, I do them. And it's taken some time, obviously, to get to that point of owning these behaviors of mine and being like, I'm doing this for me because I want to see this relationship grow, not because I feel like I need to make this relationship grow or else my parents are going to disown me and they're going to say, F you, so you never bye, you know, no, I have no fear of that. In fact, I feel so loved that I want to show love back.
So is it even people pleasing?
No.
So there you go.
Whoops. But no, I mean, I guess in that definition, it is people pleasing. Like you are pleasing other people, even if it is to the detriment of your own self. But again, where it's coming from in your own body and mind matters so much, right? It's what makes that difference between like leading into burnout or having it energize you.
Yeah.
did you want to talk about relationships and like maybe what to look out for in like like romantic intimate relationships?
Sure. I mean, well, we talked a little bit before about like the dangerous combinations of like people pleasers and other types of I guess disorders. NPD. I was just double checking that. But yeah, I think that this the biggest part of this battle, as far as like managing relationships, if you know you're a people pleaser, is first of all, you being aware that you're a people pleaser. And then when it comes to like, actually like, there's such a measured fine line between like people pleasing and like being excited and that kind of stuff. It's obviously not as black and white. And like, we're not saying like, I mean, sometimes you just want to do 60-40 for your partner. Like, you know what I mean?
And you can, like, that's what I'm saying is like, as long as it feels balanced, that's okay. But it's when and that's what I hear a lot with clients is that like, it doesn't feel balanced. They feel like, oh, I'm so drained. I feel like I'm the only one who reaches out. I'm the only one who initiates. I'm the only one who, buys gifts or thinks of the kids or buys, whatever it is.
It's really easy to see how like someone who's experiencing that can develop really low self-esteem. Like, that's your partner. That's like or
your parent or your friend.
Yeah, that's right. It's not just your partner. It's a real battle of like really knowing thyself, self-reflection,
and being okay with upsetting people, disappointing others.
We finally got into it, haven't we?
Yes.
We've been tiptoeing around this whole time.
Yes. And that's kind of, it leads us right into like applicable things that y'all can use.
How do we say bad words to people?
Or say no, or
F no, or H no.
It doesn't have
S no.
It doesn't have to come with all this anger.
B no.
I think this is just us showing you that like, if you don't deal with that resentment, it does come out in that way, right? It does come out in like all that.
No one could see you do that. You did that silently.
You just give me so much for swearing.
You just did it anyway.
Oh my gosh. Okay, great.
No, I'm just kidding. All of that was bleeped.
Where was I?
Nowhere. We were nowhere. No, we were in applicable stuff.
Yeah, what to do, right? Like like I said, all this boils down is to you have to be comfortable with disappointing people.
Here's what I keep thinking of. Okay, this is going to show my age. SpongeBob. Do you know what episode? There's an episode where SpongeBob's hanging out with Plankton, and Plankton is trying to teach him to be assertive. And basically, you need to go Plankton on yourself. You need to teach yourself to be assertive.
Okay, hold on. Yes. I think that can...
I think Plankton takes it a little far if memory serves.
Plankton might have been too assertive.
Yeah. But
assertiveness is one way to go about it. It's very much a CBT kind of way to approach it. Like you're fixing you're approaching your behaviors. So that way it changes like how you feel about things, what you think, and so on and so forth. It's not the only way.
Yeah, but it's like the most sponge-worthy way.
No, because it didn't work for SpongeBob either.
Oh, that's right. That went terribly for SpongeBob.
A lot of people pleasers that come into the office, like I said, don't have a whole lot of self-esteem. I think you kind of need a bit of self-esteem to be assertive.
Okay, so strike everything about the Plankton analogy.
No, I think it's a good point. Assertiveness is a helpful thing, right? Respectively and directly, it's important to be able to say those things.
Yeah, that's to go back respectfully and directly. That's what we're talking about, not being a jerk.
Yes. Because you, again, if a lot of the times the people that you are trying to please or how that in that way that comes out are people that you care about, they're relationships that you want to preserve.
Otherwise, why would you be trying to please them?
Right. So yes, being assertive, setting boundaries, even like cognitive restructuring, a lot of those ways are very much like CBT focused.
Good old CBT was recommended in the book.
Yeah. Yeah. Sure. It's kind of like the first line of defense in a lot of ways, but there's so much more now too on how to approach it that maybe feel a little softer, a little bit more approachable, and are a little bit more gentler, because like assertiveness and boundary setting and cognitive restructuring.
Wait, don't say boundary setting like that. Boundary setting. I know.
I'm sorry. No, so boundary setting are obviously so important. And if you're my client, I talk so much about boundaries. But I guess what I'm saying is like it's coming from it. From that approach, from like a very like direct approach. And again, sometimes we don't have that capacity to approach it in a very direct way.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's okay to have like these small moments where we can make small changes and it leads to a big impact, right? So a tool that I often tell my clients, I'm like, advocate for more time. If someone's asking you something, hey, can you watch my kid on Saturday? And you don't want to or you can't, but your first line of action is always, sure, of course, yes, no problem.
That's tough.
That's tough, right? So I always say, you don't have to say no. No is like, you've probably built a bunch of walls around no. But you probably haven't built as many walls around maybe, or let me get back to you, or let me think about that. Or
you know what really works for me? Let me check with my wife on that.
Exactly.
God, I love that phrase.
Even if you don't have to check with me, like it's just the point of buying you some time. I need time to process. Let me check my calendar. Let me email you back. Anything that is able to give your clients or you more time is huge in helping you connect those dots. If we were talking about earlier about like, how do we get to apply these things before the hits the fan?
Right.
This is it. Buying yourself some time so that you process and you realize, no, I don't actually want to do this. How can I present this in a way that makes sense to them and feels good for me? And you know what? Even if you say something with the perfect little bow on it, there's a huge chance that you might still disappoint someone.
Yeah, because it's not ultimately up to you.
It's not ultimately up to you.
Communication completely is only up to 50% you.
Well, even if they understand what you're saying and are still upset or disappointed, they're allowed to be.
Yeah.
They're allowed to be sad and disappointed that you can't make it to the party or that you can't watch their kid or whatever else, That's okay. Two things can be true at once. You can honor where you're at and what you need for yourself, and they can also have their own feelings about that. And that's the kicker. As a people pleaser, what you're really recovering from is learning how to cope with that discomfort of upsetting someone else, annoying someone else, disappointing someone else.
Because isn't it so much easier to just not? Wouldn't it be so much easier for everything if you didn't have to confront people and you just worked yourself into a burnout, into exhaustion just to keep the peace?
Yeah. And then exactly.
Why if you sacrifice yourself for the greater good? Wouldn't that be easier?
I can't look at you sometimes because you're like, yeah, obviously. Why do you think so many freaking people like people please? I know that's what you're getting at. And it's just so funny. Like, that's exactly right. Like, it's so uncomfortable to do this stuff, but it's worth it. Like, it's worth it.
The discomfort with confrontation is real.
It's real and it's worth it. And
full disclosure, I super struggle with it.
And guess what? It's not going anywhere. Like, we all experience conflict and discomfort, and you know what? It's not a bad thing. That's something that also too, I think I say in sessions sometimes, and clients look at me like I'm crazy. And it's not a bad thing to feel guilt, because it means you care deeply. It's not a bad thing to feel grief and sadness because it means you loved deeply, like that's the point of life, is to live it with all the ups and downs, with all the beauty, all of it. And so as people pleasers, you're missing out on so much life and experience because you're trying so hard to fill in these little holes that in the grand scheme of things, like, aren't getting you what you want. So all that to say, you can advocate for some time for yourself. Think about it, process it, definitely communicate your boundaries. I think the biggest part with like boundary setting is like, you don't even know your freaking boundaries. You're like, I don't know where that lies. I don't know what feels good for me.
You're redrawing your boundaries. You don't know where you're going to redraw that boundary.
Exactly.
It's very floaty and flexible for like a while. For
a while, you have to put in that work of realizing this feels good, this doesn't. This is where the line is. this is not,
Yeah.
you know? It's tough. Y'all can do it. I believe in you.
That's how we should end every episode.
I'm not done. Oh, I'm not done, brother.
It's tough. Y'all can do it. I believe in you.
I'm not done. I mean, we still have to talk about like self-care too.
Don't forget to say that again at the end then.
Okay, I will say it at the end. You can do it. But yeah, self-care, obviously, like reinvesting into yourself. Yeah, that's something that I often say is like, if you feel like messaging this person that you often find yourself in this people-pleasing relationship with, or again, sacrificing your needs for them, if you're able to take that pause, reinvest that energy that might have gone to this person into yourself first.
Yeah.
Into yourself first, right? It might end there, but you might be so re-energized that you might still want to do that thing to please that other person. Mm-hmm. So like, it's still a win-win.
Yeah.
Please invest in yourself. It is always going to bring back a reward. You know, it's always going to give you a return on your money.
What's some good little self-care stuff you could do?
I always say this, start with your basic needs. Have you had something to eat?
Yes.
Have you had anything to drink? Are you sleeping well? Yeah, your Sims needs, you know. Starting there is always great. After that, you can have fun.
Yeah,
what brings you joy?
True.
What do you like to do? How do you like to spend your time? Is it video gaming? Is it painting? Is it going for a run? Do what you like to do. Have and say, this is for me. I'm going on this run for me. I'm playing this video game because I can, you know,
because I want to.
Exactly.
I've been wanting to.
Yes, I've been wanting to. So yeah, like I said, don't be afraid of confronting those uncomfortable feelings and emotions. They're necessary, and they're going to lead you back to a good emotion. Like, if there's one thing I know about life is that there's ups and there's downs, and they always pass. Good moments pass, bad moments pass. You can confront this bad moment because it's going to pass. It might feel awkward for a sec, but most of the time people are flexible, understanding, they get it. Like half the time when I have clients who are explaining, like telling me this story in which they like people pleased or sacrificed or ended up feeling so burnt out, I'm like, had you told them that this was going on, what do you think they would have wanted for you? They would have been like, usually what I get is like clients are like, they would have never wanted me to do that. Mm-hmm. Or they would have been like, you're crazy for doing that. Or like, why didn't you tell me? Like, you're robbing people of the opportunity of showing up for you authentically too.
Yeah.
You know, which
true.
is why maybe a lot of these relationships tend to start to feel shallow
and
resentful, right? Again, you're missing out. That grief, the guilt, the self-doubt are uncomfortable, but they lead to more depth. Mm-hmm. Right? Like anybody who's climbed a mountain knows that there's hella struggle going up.
We assume.
I've never climbed a mountain. I mean, I think about like the movie Everest and all that.
The bodies and also the real Everest with all the bodies.
Oh my God. Anyway.
Cool. So there's the clip.
But yeah, like obviously it's a struggle. But people still freaking climb the mountain. It's still worth, and people still say it's worth climbing the mountain, right? Like, it's worth it. You are worth it. You are worth having the relationships you want.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. You are worth it.
Thanks. You are worth it.
Oh, thank you.
And you, listener, are so worth it.
Yeah. You know what I think I want to say?
Yes.
I don't want to say drink water, purple friends anymore.
Mm.
It doesn't feel authentic to me. It was just kind of something I said one time, and I'm not married to it. It's not.
It's fine.
You know what's better than that? That kind of gets the same thing across is meditate, hydrate, protect your energy before engagement.
Yeah, that's fun. That's from a song that we really like.
Yeah.
And it's so true. You know, I do think it's important to hydrate, meditate, protect your energy. God, I say that all the time to my clients. Protect your energy. Where is your energy going? Do you even know that there's a leak in your energy?
Right.
Did you know that this person is sucking your energy? They're a vampire.
Are you about to engage with a vampire?
Yeah.
Protect your energy before you engage with a vampire.
Where's your garlic?
Yeah, do you have your spiritual garlic to engage with this
Do you have your
energy
holy
vampire?
water with you?
Your holy plasma for this energy vampire, this digital vampire.
Yes. Like truly though, like that's the boundary setting. The boundary is not for them. It's for you to recognize like, oh, this person, I need to make sure I engage with them only on my terms.
Let's say you got like a uncle who you always get into it with. Let's say you always get into it with an uncle, and you know that you're going to be in your uncle's presence. You know that this fool is going to engage with you.
So make room for that.
Yeah. I mean, you got nowhere to go unless you're going to leave the house in a big dramatic fashion. You're at your uncle's house in this situation. Yeah. Your uncle's coming at you with all kinds of garbage about the color of his hat and all kinds of stuff, and protect your energy.
Yeah.
You don't have to engage back.
Absolutely.
And if you do it on your terms.
That's like the whole let me, let them kind of mentality, right? Like,
what's that?
Let them piss you off. Let them get let them get into a tizzy, you know, but let me in response not engage, or let me redirect some of that energy back to myself, or
watch what I do in response to what you say.
Yeah, walk away.
Nothing.
Like, right. Like, absolutely. That is you protecting your energy, right? That let me piece. What am I going to do with what's in my control?
I know some of y'all got that dog in you. I know you got that dog in you. You hear that bark, you let that dog come out. Gotta keep the dog on a leash sometimes. It's just better for your health, your heart.
Yeah.
It's just not worth it sometimes.
Yeah.
I'm throwing a lot of metaphors out there. I hope everyone's keeping up.
Oh, they're keeping up. They're keeping up.
They got it. They understand.
They got it. They understand.
Purple friends, remember to meditate, hydrate, and protect your energy before engagement.
Absolutely. Please take care of yourselves. We care for you. You got this.
You got this.
You can do it.
You can do it.
We believe in you.
We believe in you.
And we'll see you here next time.
Purple Friends is an independent podcast produced by Vibe Therapy Services and is not a substitute for a session with a real therapist. Our show art was created by Jocelyn Lang, and our theme music is Nature Nurture by The Implied Bear. Vibe Therapy is an Illinois-based private practice serving clients in person at our Wheaton office and virtually throughout the state of Illinois. We accept Blue Cross Blue Shield PPO, United Healthcare, Aetna, and Cigna Insurance. We also offer private pay rates as well as free 15-minute initial consultations. Therapy doesn't have to feel clinical. Visit vibetherapyservices.com to see if we vibe.